Gym accessories. There is a lot of them, so it can be hard to distinguish between the useful ones and the ones that are just complete waste of money. I prepared 10 of the most used gym accessories and we will go over every single one to see which ones are actually worth using. First up, we have straps. If you were to ask someone what the main use case for straps is, their answer would probably be something like heavy deadlifts or shrugs, which is a fine answer. But there are other use cases that are way better, and for some reason people just don't talk about them. The place where straps shine the most is on all the pulling exercises like rows or the lat pull down. Why would I use straps on these exercises? The weight is not that heavy. I know, it sounds like a weird idea at the first glance, but let me explain. Let's use the lat pull down as an example. Imagine that you are trying to get to 12 reps. The first couple of reps are going smooth, right? But as you get closer and closer to your last couple of reps, it gets harder and harder, your grip starts to slip a little bit and the feeling of complete control that you had at the start is suddenly gone. And this is where the straps come into play. Straps will guarantee that the feeling of control you have at the start of the set will remain throughout the whole set, which will allow you to focus more on your back instead of the grip, which is going to result in better mind-muscle connection and possibly even more reps. The reason why this is great is because you don't want the grip to be the limiting factor. When you train back, for example, you want your back to reach failure before your grip reaches failure. Obviously, right? Because you are not there to train your grip, you are there to get your back bigger. Of course, you should only use straps if you are actually struggling with holding onto the bar. In other words, if you know that your grip is failing before your back, then you should definitely try using straps. But for all the hungry beginners out there, this is probably not relevant to you. It starts to be very useful when you get to heavier loads. If you are lifting 80 pounds on the lat pull down machine, I'm sorry, but you don't need straps for that. The next gym accessory we need to talk about is a lifting belt. The main purpose of a lifting belt is to increase the intra-abdominal pressure. In other words, when you have the belt on, you can brace your core against it, which will increase your power output. But don't think that this is some magical solution that will instantly make you lift more weight. There is more to it than just putting the belt on. You actually have to learn how to use it. What might happen is that you actually might become weaker, because you have no idea how to do the exercise using a belt. But yes, once you learn how to properly brace into the belt, then your lifts will increase. Even though your lifts will increase, I still would not recommend it. It's just not necessary for bodybuilding purposes. You can get super jacked without using a belt a single time. Where the lifting belt shines the most is when you do very low rep work with a lot of weight. And we all know that doing heavy 1 rep maxes is just not necessary if all you care about is gaining as much muscle as possible. That is the reason why I wouldn't recommend using a belt if all you chase is more muscle mass. Learn how to brace properly without a belt and you will never need a belt again. By the way, don't even think about using a belt as a band-aid fix for your hurt lower back. Don't ever do that, because it will end in a disaster. The lifting belt should be seen as a tool that you can use if your main focus is chasing a specific number on some lift. For example, if you want to get to a 400 pound squat and that's your main goal, then using a belt would for sure be a good idea. But otherwise, it's just not needed at all. Next up, we have another type of belt, and that is the dip belt. As the name suggests, the dip belt is used to add extra weight to your body weight when you are doing exercises like dips or any types of pull-ups. I still remember that the dip belt was one of the first pieces of equipment that I ever bought, and I still use it to this day, just because of how amazing weighted pull-ups are. So if you have been thinking about buying one, then I would definitely recommend it. Then we have a little package of wrist wraps, elbow sleeves and knee sleeves. They all kind of do the same thing. They compress the area and help you stay stabilized. And in the case of the sleeves, they also help to keep the area warm, which is something that your joints will appreciate. But I would not recommend any of these things to beginners. I actually used to wear wrist wraps for like the first 2 years of my bodybuilding journey, and it's something that I regret to this day. While you are still relatively new to the gym, you should let your body experience how everything feels without adding any unnecessary garbage. Because when the time comes and you will have to take those things off, then your body will be in an absolute state of shock, because it's something that it has never experienced before. If you start using all of these things right from the get-go, you are basically building a house of cards that is just waiting to be blown down. As with the lifting belt, these sleeves and wraps are just not necessary, unless you are lifting very heavy weight. Next up, we have weightlifting shoes. Weightlifting shoes can be a game changer for leg training. And that's because in these shoes your heels will be automatically elevated, which will put your body in a more upright position, which will emphasize your quads when you are squatting. Weightlifting shoes will also help you out if you have really bad ankle mobility. So in that case, you will be able to go much deeper on a squat. All of this sounds great, but you should know that you can achieve the exact same effect of the weightlifting shoes just by putting a small plate under your heels, which honestly might be a better option for most of the people, because weightlifting shoes can be pretty expensive. So if you are thinking about buying a pair of these shoes, then I would highly recommend to try it out with the small plates under your heels first, so you know what you are getting yourself into before you actually decide to spend your money. Next, we have gloves. Yeah, I don't think I need to comment on this. Please don't wear gloves to the gym. The only valid use case is if you are doing CrossFit or something similar where your hands are literally bleeding. Otherwise, please don't. It's like if you wanted to go swimming in a raincoat, it just doesn't make sense. Now let's talk about bands. Bands have many different use cases. Most commonly, people use bands to stretch and warm up, but there are also other things that you can do with them, like the band assisted pull-up for example. You can also use them for other exercises, like bench press for instance. But this is a very advanced technique that should only be done by very experienced lifters and not beginners. This technique probably deserves a standalone video, just because of how much there is to it. Overall, bands can be very useful, but as with most of these accessories, they are definitely not a must-have. Let's finish it all off with an honorable mention, that is the ab wheel. If you are looking for a good secondary exercise for the abs, then doing the ab rollout with the ab wheel is a great candidate. And if you don't know what I mean by a secondary exercise for the abs, make sure to check out the Bodybuilding Simplified video about abs. And maybe all the other ones while you're at it? To sum it all up, I'm honestly going to tell you, you don't need any of these accessories. They can be useful, but you can still build your dream physique without them. But if you really want to buy some gym accessories, I would recommend the straps, the dip belt and maybe bands. But you really need to know if you're gonna use them. Because most people buy them, then use them twice and then leave them in a box for the next 50 years. So if you really want to buy some accessories, then these three will definitely be the best investments. Just remember that the gym accessories get better as you get more experienced in the gym. If you are a beginner, then you shouldn't be using any of these accessories, except maybe bands for a warm-up. But as you get more experience, these gym accessories will play a bigger and bigger role in improving your workouts. If you are looking for an easy to follow training or nutrition plan, then go to bodybuildingsimplified.com and get started today. So what are you waiting for? It's just that simple. And as always, a big thanks to all the supporters on my Patreon. Did you like this video? Then you will for sure like this one too.